This week I've been a busy bee. So much has changed on the farm. I added a beautiful outdoor area with a hideaway projector screen that turns into a hammock stand. Come join me watch a movie as we sit on the chairs and table that I built a while back. I added 2 super comfy egg chairs because why not? Do you want one too? Follow me and lessons anfangen.
Dirt on my hands, strong like a tree. There's roots where I stand.
The first step was to put some posts into the ground. I do live in Florida and it's currently raining season, so that was easier said than done. Also, because of all this rain, the groundwater is sitting pretty high, which means when I dig a 2-foot hole for the post to go into, the hole fills with water immediately, which obviously affects the cure time and stability of the cement. So I set this post yesterday evening in an attempt to let it cure, which still has not fully happened. So they're still a bit wobbly, but good enough to start working. As you can tell, I started by sanding the posts, so I can apply a finish to them. For this project, I chose 4x4 posts. However, if you have the money and muscle power, please go with 6x6 posts. I went to the hardware store to get the posts, and first of all, they did not have as many as I needed. And then the posts were still wet, so they were so heavy, so I just went with the 4x4s. Also, the 4x4s were much cheaper. For the beams, I went with 2x8 pieces of lumber that I will attach on the outsides of the post by using bolts. To make them visually pleasing, I cut the corners. I used the same technique for the garden arbor I built a while back. After I traced the cut mark, I used my circular saw to cut the corner off. To get it ready for the stain, I used my sander to give it a quick sand. Then I worked on attaching the beams. To help me level the beams, I used some clamps. Make sure the beam is straight, and also that you have the same overhang on both sides before you start drilling holes. And there goes my level. I wish I had someone to throw it back up to me so I can catch it. You will only understand this if you watched my recent Instagram clip upload. That was funny, wasn't it? Once I had the beams marked where they will be placed, I cut off the excess lumber on the posts. So this piece of lumber has to go for now. To help you make a straight cut, you can use a speed square or another piece of lumber and some clamps so you have a line to follow. Or you use nothing and just take your chances. And it came out perfectly straight. Then I did the same for all the other posts. Talk about instant karma right there. Now, since I had the posts and beams prepared, it's time to cut all the spindles that will go on top of the arbors. Therefore, I use pressure-treated 2x4s. Each of the arbors will have 12 of those spindles on top, so I cut 24 pieces. Once I had all the pieces cut to size, I chopped off the edges with a 30-degree angle, for visual purposes again. I lined up each board with the metal fence edge where the blade goes through. That gives me a simple way to cut each piece the same way without having to mark each of the pieces. Once all the pieces were cut, it was time to stain. Like always, I used the Olympic water guard in cedar color. It's not sponsored or anything, but I used it on one of my pieces. And first of all, I want to stick with the same color scheme, and second, I've been happy with the product so far, so why not use it again? I do really like the color outcome. After everything was stained and protected, it was time to assemble all the pieces. And here's my Amazon haul, all the hardware I needed. I started with the beams. Make sure they're level before you start drilling any holes. Again, I used my clamps to help position the piece and hold it in place. And then I got to use my cool new drill bit. I had to order this since I did not have one long enough to cut through two 2x8 pieces and one 4x4 at the same time. The bit is a 1/2 inch thick to accommodate the bolts. I've been using black hardware all around the property, so of course I went with black hardware here as well. The bolts are simple to attach. Just drill a hole, slide them through, and hammer in the front. The back is secured with a washer and a nut. Now, before I attach the back beam on one of the arbors, I wanted to attach the hideaway projector screen. It will sit between the two beams, and boy is that thing heavy. I made sure I centered the projector screen before I attached it with the screws provided. I still felt like it was a little bit wobbly. I also wanted to give it some extra protection from the elements, so I built a little cover around it, and I was able to drill in 2 more screws on the sides to make it more stable. And that's the little build I came up with here. And of course, that had to be stained as well. Now, since this piece was assembled, I had to lift it up to the top to attach it with the other beam. I was not prepared for the weight, so I had to put on my concentration face and come up with a solution. And again, clamps to the rescue. I attached them a bit lower than the final position of the beam, since this was how high I was able to lift it, and then I was able to lift it the rest of the way from there. I would say where there is a will, there is a way. Then I attached the bolts and secured them. And then I noticed that little string that got tangled as I attached the projector screen. It's stuck in there because of the plastic part on the end. So I have to cut the string, pull it through, and reattach it. Isn't there always something? And now, since we have this figured out, it's time to attach the hammock. Now I've noticed that the beams might have been placed a bit too close for this large of a hammock. So in order to not hit the floor, I had to attach the hammock a little bit higher than I usually would. To attach it, I used those hardware pieces. I ordered those from Amazon as well. And it's working. I might have to get a shorter hammock in the future, but for now that will do. I definitely bought that after color, not purpose. I tend to do that a lot. Now let's tackle the second beam. I wanted to add some braces to the sides to make it more stable once the 2 Eggchairs are attached to it. So I took another 4x4 and cut it to size. I attached those braces with structural wood screws. And then it started raining out of nowhere, and I had to stop and finish the rest on the next day. It's just a few more steps left before we finish. To hang the egg chairs, I took a piece of 4x4 and added hardwood to hang the chair in the middle of it. Then I sandwiched those pieces in between the beams and used 2 bolts on each to secure them to the beam. This should be strong enough to securely attach the egg chairs. And again, I get to use my cool new drill bit. Now there's one last thing to do, attaching the spindles. I laid them out to see how close I wanted to get to the edge, to get a visually pleasing finish. Once I had the position of the 2 side pieces determined, I measured the distance in between and divided it to get an equal spacing for the rest of the pieces. I attached them using long screws and my drill. And that's the end result. All the pieces are attached. Which means wir fertig! Oh boy, what a project! I'm so in love with the outcome. I just want to hang out here all day. I can watch a movie, read a book in the egg chairs, take a nap in the hammock, or just sit by the fire in the chairs, getting use of the table as well. So many possibilities. And I love them all. What do you think? Do you like my project? Let me know in the comments below. Also, if you haven't done so, please subscribe to my channel. And most important, press the bell button to get notified of new videos. You like to see more? Please join my Patreon for more videos and pictures. This helps me to create more projects on YouTube. So you joining my Patreon would be very appreciated. See you next Friday. Tschüss!